pleasure to present our first award this evening, the Distinguished Service Award to Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. We are honored, I know I'm honored, to recognize his extraordinary service and leadership tonight. And his colleague, Paul Hoffinger, will accept the award on his behalf.
I'm so honored to be part of that organization. It's called America's Future. He knows exactly what's going on here. And I want you to hear some of his words, but this will be in his hands by tomorrow. So very grateful to all of you for caring. Thank you.
In the service to our country, we are always going to face adversity. And when we have military members who go overseas who are so willingly, and I know that there's so many in there, who are so willing to give their life for our country for causes that they rarely understand, or in some cases they'll never understand, in places that they would rather not be, and in support of people, in some cases don't even want them there, and yet they're still American soldier, and I'm representative of, when I use the word soldier, representative of every member that serves in the armed forces. That person, that soldier, is so ready to give their very life for our country, and many tragically do. As Abraham Lincoln talked about, the last true measure of devotion in the cause of our nation and for the freedom of our nation, for the unity of our nation, and then many others are wounded, and many are severely wounded. And in my time in the service, the one thing that always the toughest thing for me was when I got to know, because I deployed into harm's way as a lieutenant, I deployed as a captain, I deployed again as a major, I deployed again as a colonel, full colonel, and then of course as a flag officer for the better part of 10 years, back and forth, off and on different deployments. So for me it's a total of 5 years in various combat operations around the world. But I was always one to get to know our soldiers. I wanted to know the soldiers, and certainly in my platoon, in my battalion, in my brigade, and in other formations that I led. And you would get to know their families, and you would get to know their children, and especially you knew when somebody was having a baby or they had already had a baby. And some don't come back. Those that don't come back, that you know their families, and you have to work with their families, and you're trying to comfort them. And then those that are severely wounded. And I've gotten to know so many that have had very, very severe wounds that are so debilitating. Yet they, and when I'm around them, they inspire me. I mean, they lift my spirits up, because I look and I start to feel sorry for myself. I look at them and I'm like, and they're like, don't feel sorry for me. I survived, and I'm going to lift myself up, and I'm going to find a way to inspire others. And boy, do they inspire others. They certainly, speak for myself, they inspire me, because when you look at you're all sitting at a nice event there, and you look at the person on your left, the person on your right, and we look around sometimes, and we have these lives that we lead, and yet we tend to forget about those service members who once they leave service, and this is why organizations like yours is such an important organization. I mean, I can't overemphasize it. We actually, and I think most of the folks in here who serve, they know this acronym ETS. You terminate from the service, right? You terminate from the service, and it's a really difficult thing, especially those that have served in combat, because you develop a bond and a closeness, and when you get wounded in some capacity, we have a tendency to forget those men and women. We really, really do, and that's why organizations such as you guys, the Homes for Veterans, you're vital. You're vital to a connection that must stay, bonded with those members who have served our military in such a dramatic way. I want people to reflect on the greatness of the people, of the men and women who volunteer for our military, and then they come into a situation where they are terminated from the service, and they depart the service, and they go back to their communities, especially for these really severely disabled veterans that we do have, and we have many of them. They need to feel a connection, and so your organization and what you have done and what you have achieved and what you continue to do is you give those soldiers, those service members, a connection. And believe me, I know, deep inside my heart that they so appreciate that, and many of us around the country, we so deeply appreciate it. So I just want to say thank you guys very, very much. I wish I could be there with you. I'm literally on the road tomorrow.